We're supposed to go to Wonei today to have our experience with practice teaching. We will be living right with the Trukeese family, which will be a new experience, I think. The people here live in houses made of tin and thatch and some wood. Having tin on your house is quite a status symbol, and so that although the thatch is prettier, in many cases more practical, the tin is a status symbol, so that some houses are all tin. The house of the chief on this island is all tin. So that when we go off island today to practice teach, we will be living with the Trukeese family. The houses usually are just one great big room, and we are told to take our mosquito netting and our mats, we sleep on mats, so I think I've mentioned in letters. And we don't know that much Trukeese. We know a little bit, but we haven't really had the time to pick up a great deal. So we'll be trying to communicate. There's been a group, the Yap and Ponape and Palau group, have been practice teaching this past week. And evidently they've been very happy on this particular island we're going to. The people have been very nice. The school situation has its problems. Of course, these children are just coming in for the summer, but the children around here are left very much on their own. The babies are carried all the time by everybody. You just don't see a baby not being carried. And children children is with a family, more or less. The boat we went on was a kind of outboard motorboat, I guess you'd have to say it. I know, okay. The motor kept coughing and chugging. We weren't sure it was going to go. The people on the island here on Udot, many of them have boats made out of banana trees or breadfruit trees. Canoes made out of breadfruit trees hollowed out, and they use paddles. This week we're going to learn how to use one, which ought to be quite an experience. But some people do have boats that look like they're falling apart and have motors on them that go. This is what we went over on. Anyway, so we went over and a lot of water splashing on us. There was another girl with us and a Peace Corps volunteer who was stationed or is placed on the island that we were going to. The island was called Wonei, and very picturesque. I think everything out here is picturesque. This volunteer's name was Roger. He's come in to help construct a school that is being built on this island. The volunteer who was there has arranged to get money to build. We first dropped this girl off, which was very interesting because each island has a coral area around it, and in order to have a dock, this coral area has to be dynamited, actually. And this first person we let off, we sort of went a little bit into this coral area, and then she had to wade carrying her packages and children helping her carry her packages to where she was going. We went around the other side of the island, and we also had to wade through the water. This is true on most of the islands, that you have to wade to get to them. But these islands were very, the Japanese were here, and we'll tell you later a little bit more about what the evidence we saw on this island, what the Japanese had done. But the first thing we saw was this very long cement dock, which was very deep, had very deep water around it that the Japanese had built. We've learned since that many of the islands people went to had these really fantastic docks compared to what is here now, that have lasted very well. We were met by a great many children and adults, and we were taken to this house. The houses are basically made out of coconut palm leaves, which are, you take the palm leaf, which has many areas coming off, like a fern, I guess you'd have to say, and you fold this over and you sort of sew it with the fibers. This is on a board, and then you build these up and you make a house, and you put them down the roof. This is what many of the houses are made out of, and then people that have a little more have used tin, either leftover tin or tin that they've managed to get a hold of or buy, and they may put just tin on the roof or just tin on the sides. This is true in many houses. Our house was quite substantial. It even had a cement floor, which was quite a surprise to us, and rooms. The Trukees don't really use rooms. They all sleep in the house, which is just one great big room. And when I say they all sleep, I really mean they all sleep. I mean, it's everybody, cousin, aunt, uncle, children. A family idea is much larger than our idea of a family. This particular house, you went up cement stairs and onto a kind of, well, cement floor, but kind of dirt floor also. And there were 4 rooms in this house. We stayed in the first one on the right. The rooms were separated by boards, which you could see through all the cracks and everything. We had 2 windows in our room, which were more like stages, I think you'd have to say. Everyone looked in on us all the time, see what we were doing. We put on a constant TV show in a way, but it was sort of fun. They enjoy watching what we're doing and are very helpful. Our family is the only Protestant family on the island. Most of the people in Micronesia, well, just about everyone in the Marianas where we're going is Catholic. Most of the people in Truk are Catholic. And this family we were living with, one night I was talking with them. One girl spoke very good English and was able to translate to me what her father was saying. He told me that they had come from the Mortlocks, which are islands out of the lagoon in Truk, in 1932 with his wife and 3 daughters, and that since that time there are now 32 in their family. This includes the daughters getting married and having children. He told me that there were 3 babies and 12 men, and I'm not too sure, 6 women and 8 girls or something like that. There was a church that this man was a minister at. Of course, this is the only Protestants. While we were there, they painted the church and they built a path to it because some ministers were coming to visit. The people on this island lived almost entirely on rice and breadfruit. This is very true of the entire Truk area. It's still hard for us to get used to the idea that here where everything could grow, these people really do live on just breadfruit and rice. Breadfruit, I think I've mentioned before, has very little taste. But it grows on you. They fry it, which is very good, and they put this coconut milk on it. They drink a lot of coconuts. They have some fish. While we were there, we had octopus, and I learned how to clean it. The women go out with wire, or something like wire that they get from the trees, a kind of a heavy fiber, and go in the rocks and catch the octopus in this way, and then cut them and take out the part inside the head. And this they boil. We had it boiled, and they also salt it so it stays until later. This is about their entire diet, and this would have been our entire diet, except that we brought some canned foods with us. I believe you asked about what we were eating while we were here, and we're eating a great many canned foods: beef stew, chili, chicken and dumplings, hash, this spam and corned beef, a lot of spam, a lot of corned beef. And then in addition we have breadfruit, fish when it's available, and rice all the time. If we were living on just a native diet, we would be eating breadfruit and rice entirely. Drinking coconuts. Of course, there are pineapples and bananas and limes, which you eat anytime. But nothing else. There are a lot of pigs and a lot of chickens, but they don't eat the pigs or the chickens except on special occasions. When they have a feast or when someone gets married or something of this nature. We've had chicken twice while we've been here because of the 2 couples that left our house and went back to the States from Yap, that were trainees in the Yap group. Our family sort of had a going away party for each of them, and we ate chicken. The room we stayed in had a bench, which was something wonderful. We're so used to sitting on the floor for everything. We don't even think about chairs anymore or tables, but we had a bench and a table here and a shelf, which was a great luxury. In our room here in Udot, we keep our suitcases on the floor, but we have to keep them propped up so that the moisture doesn't get to them. And inevitably we have to clean them once or twice a week because cockroaches get in. Just seems to be cockroaches that get in. The spiders don't seem to get in the suitcases too much. And I will say I don't like cockroaches, but I'm getting used to them. Meanwhile, while we were on Wonei, This gives you a little idea of our where we were living. The family had this old man who was 67, which is a fantastically old age for out here. Very alive, very alert, and his wife, 2 or 3 older daughters, and then children ranging right on down. And one night we sat around and sang Protestant hymns, which was quite an experience. I knew a lot of hymns that I'd never heard. A lot of fun songs with hand movements and such that they could sing in Trukeese and in English. Well, we got settled in our house and we went out and talked, visited with people. We know a few words in Trukeese. Rananim means hello. Rananim means hello. I think is. So we went outside and they were concerned that maybe we wanted to take a shower. The people here shower 3 or 4 times a day. So we went up to shower and we walked past the houses, and of course everyone watches. I've mentioned before that it's very important that you keep your thigh area covered to your knees, but it's not very important to keep your top covered, so showering, I just wear this skirt and then keep the top up, and then when I shower, I usually take it down. It's hard to say, it doesn't make any difference. So we walked up this hill to shower, and there was a stream coming down which had been funneled into a pipe, and you sort of stand by the pipe and splash the water on you and shower. You walk up and there are women washing clothes, and the clothes are sort of scrubbed clean with some people have soap and some don't. And because we're new and strange, people left at first, and then after a while they didn't leave. We all just sort of washed together. Many times the men will bathe at one time and the women at another, but people are always showering. Of course, some people just use the ocean. One thing we've noticed is that people don't wash their hair here. It doesn't seem much that there's a problem with lice here in Truk, at least I'm not too aware of it, but there is in other districts. A lot of women have short hair, a lot of women have long hair. It's all black as a rule, with some sort of strange blonde trends in the hair. Anyway, so after showering, we came down for dinner, and we had rice in one of our cans of, I think it was hash. And then we went to sleep. As I told you, the sun comes up at 6 and goes down at 6, and so you live by the sun. We had brought our mosquito net with us and our mat, and we put our mat on the floor and our mosquito net up. Luckily, there weren't too many mosquitoes, and we went to sleep. The next morning, we got up and had our peanut butter and ship biscuits for breakfast. They don't seem to eat breakfast. If we didn't eat peanut butter for breakfast, we wouldn't eat breakfast, or we might be able to find something to eat, maybe breadfruit, but basically this has a lot of protein. We went to our school. Now, the school we taught in really wasn't a school. It was the house of one of the volunteers who had been away for the summer, was going to get married and come back with her husband and live in this house. It was made completely of thatch, had 3 rooms. We used these 3 rooms each to teach a class. I was teaching first graders. I had about 9 first graders in my class. The children here are darling, attractive, cute, fun to teach, very alive. I was teaching from the Tate materials, which is Miss Tate was here in training with us. She's written these books. They have a certain way of teaching English and a certain pattern. They begin by teaching I and you, and I was on lesson 5. I was teaching I'm hopping, you're hopping, I'm running, you're running, and then I call myself Mrs. Kit, I'm Mrs. Kit, you're Maria, or whatever the child's name might be. It is difficult to get to know the children's names because, of course, they sound different. Although you get people named Detroit and all sorts of strange names that you recognize, and then you get Perpetua and names of this nature. I taught them for an hour and a half with a break in the middle where we went outside and played a game. This is one reason we're going to be given a game file which will help with these games for these little kids. I think they really learned something. My teaching experience was definitely an asset. I do like the little kids and working with them. We have to draw a lot of pictures, both Greg and I, to supplement our material because you have to have a picture for everything you do or an action so they know exactly what you're talking about. We try to speak just in English in class with no other words and to get the children not to speak any other language. So after I taught, with various people watching me teach, it's a half-hour break, and then Greg taught the intermediate people. He had 5th and 6th graders. I'd say they ranged from 15, 16, 17, girls and boys. I think he did a very good job. He learned a great deal in the time that he was teaching. He really improved, and he had a very good rapport with the class the whole time. I was concerned that maybe he wouldn't like teaching, and this would cause certain problems. There are people that have left training because they haven't enjoyed teaching, and of course it would be silly to spend 2 years teaching if you didn't like it. But I think Greg's going to make an excellent teacher. He seems to like the children and have a very good way with them. He was teaching them, of course, much more advanced English than I was. Their pronunciation is a great problem. He was working with a minimal pair drill with sip and ship, and they just can't tell the difference between ship and skip. No, ship and sip.
But I think the one thing we learned about the island was getting a different experience. In other words, we've just been on Udot and going to Mo and so forth. But going to this other island, we really got in and know that there was a different island and there were different people. And these people really, people could move in on a Sunday and by a Tuesday or a Wednesday. The people really thought a lot of us, and we really got along quite well. And I think this is a very, very important thing. And it was very important for us to know that we'd really, the people really wanted us there and that they really enjoyed us. And I think, don't you think this is important, kid?
Yes, I think that I will say that when we left, they told us how they loved us. This man had it translated that he loved Greg and that he loved me, and we really felt that we loved them even after just a week. And we miss them now. It's impossible to explain how this fast friendship grows so quickly, and they wanted so much to make us comfortable, and they did our wash, and they brought us something to wash our hands in before we ate, which was quite a big thing because they don't wash their hands before they eat. And just to be aware of this, we tried very hard to be aware of what they were doing and to share as much of our time and what we had with them as we could, despite the language. And they were so anxious we were both on both sides so anxious to know each other, and it's just a marvelous experience.
Well, did you tell them about the shells, kid?
No, I didn't. When we were walking on the beach, it was beautiful sunset. I'm sure you know the sunsets are beautiful out here, but we were walking on the beach to see the sunset. It was, I think, the first night we were there, and one of the little children came up and gave me a shell, and I said, "Oh, Kimi so," which means thank you, and how pretty it was. And so the whole time we were there, I had little children bringing me shells. We got some beautiful shells, very smooth and very shiny. Smooth in Trukeese is madudu, and they were very, very madudu. It was really, I got many more shells, much more than I could do with it. It was sort of funny. The other thing that they would bring us would be flowers to wear in our hair. They make flowers into kind of a wreath that I think maybe one of the pictures we sent us was in one of them. And they'll bring one for Greg too sometimes. Or else you wear a flower over your ear. They brought me flowers to wear over my ear, and you wear it a certain way over your ear. There's two things that they give to you, which is which we enjoy receiving. Did you talk about walking along the beach and seeing the Trukeese time is completely different from our idea of time. Basically, people don't have watches, and you get there when it seems right. If something's supposed to happen at 1 o'clock, maybe people are there by 2. Even teaching school, the children are supposed to be there at 8. Well, they're not. Maybe someone will come in 8:05, 8:10. Maybe someone will be there at 7. It's just people get there when it's right. When everyone's there, you do it. And this was hard to get used to at first because we're used to having things done at a specific time. And if they tell you the boat's leaving at 4, then you're there at 4 ready to go. And if the boat doesn't leave until 7, you're a little bit upset. But we've started to get used to it. This idea of just going along with things as they happen and just waiting to do what comes along. Things are not done possibly when they're said they're going to be done, or the way that you think they might be. This is basically the Trukees know, and many Micronesians know, that Americans like to keep schedules, so that they're apt to make an effort to keep a schedule. one thing that really helps as far as getting the children to school is managing maybe to ring the bell at the church, which is clanging on a pipe or I don't know what is it? Greg, what do you clang on?
Well, it's an old gas cylinder.
An old gas cylinder. And then everyone hears this and they know it's time for school. Or another way is if as you're walking to school, the children see you walking to school and they know it's time to go to school. So that this works out all right. The High Commissioner's visit. Yeah, we haven't mentioned that at all. The High Commissioner of Micronesia came to Udot to visit, and this would be like, well, I suppose the President of the United States coming to visit. I mean, he's the High Commissioner, and he came with his wife.
Yeah, I did like him a lot more than Johnson, as a matter of fact.
And he.
Hope the CIA aren't listening to this.
He talked with each group. Was fairly diplomatic, couldn't answer all the questions, but was very interesting. Seemed very aware of Micronesia. It was very interesting to talk with him. And he spoke to people here. Seemed very pleased to have the Peace Corps in Micronesia. He went around to see the islands. He was here, he came on a Saturday, I think, and then we went off island on that Sunday. And then Monday he came to see a particular island that Greg and I were on because they're building a school out of coral with money that's been granted. I think we've told you about this school. It's really quite something. And then we happened to be teaching, and I just finished teaching my first grade class. And he wanted to see a class being taught, so I quickly gathered up my kids and a few others that happened to be standing around and taught.
That's pretty rare.
And taught while he was watching. It was a kind of fake situation. I taught what I'd been teaching all morning, so they knew it pretty well. There was no problems. And so he saw a class being taught, and then when he left, I stopped. Our week of teaching was kind of erratic. Wednesday was a holiday, and there were races in Moen, so there was no school. And then kids didn't show up Thursday because there was more races in Moen on Thursday. And then Friday it poured rain, and only two of my kids came, two of my first graders. When it pours rain, things stop. People don't wake up. It's hard to explain, but when it pours rain, it pours rain. And it's not that anyone's afraid of getting wet. I think Greg and I have almost gotten used to this. If it rains, you get wet, and then you get dry, you know. If you want to go swimming, you can just jump in your clothes, swim around, come out. Of course, for a girl, you have to wear a dress anyway to go swimming, so... it doesn't make too much difference. But we had a very interesting week and a very enjoyable one. It was nice to go back to our family, and we felt very close to them. We enjoyed staying with them for another week. I made a family tree of everyone in the family, which was very interesting. We took one morning and we climbed up to see the gun sites, the Japanese guns on this particular island, and they were just amazing. It gave you a perspective of what the Japanese were doing on these islands and what they planned to do. There were, we walked up the mountain and we came to a very large gun. Greg, can you describe the gun?
Well, what the Japanese had done, of course the top of these islands is all volcanic, as you may well know. Most of the islands, at least here in Truk, are. And they blasted out these caves, which went, it would be like an X on the top, crisscrossed each other, and these caves connected 4 different guns on the top. Of which
5 different guns.
Well, okay, 5 anyway. There were only one big one was left. The others have been, I don't know. Well, they've all been stripped. They're mainly just the metal barrel and the metal parts and so forth. All the brass and so forth has been taken off the guns, but they're, I don't know, about 4-inch guns. The diameter, I don't know how many millimeter that would be, but it's a pretty impressive looking thing. Most of the trees in front of these, which had all been cut down, so they'd had a fairly good view of the lagoon, had been cut down, or had grown up. The original ones had been, of course, been cut down, but these had all grown up, so there wasn't quite as good a view from these guns as there probably was when the Japanese was there. But the whole thing was very interesting. You could walk right through the whole top of the mountain through these caves, about 5.5.
You better call them tunnels.
Yeah, they're actually tunnels, I guess, about 5.5 feet high.
and they had water systems inside them, and just very, interesting. It was kind of something to imagine what it must have been like when the Japanese were there. All these guns look right down on this sort of channel which came into this island, so they would have had a perfect target for any American ships that came in there. I don't think these guns were used, however, because most of the Japanese, there were 58 Japanese boats sunk out here in the lagoon, and these were mostly done by planes, and they didn't really have any big invasion force in Truk.
How long would you say the gun is? The gun was?
No, it's about 8 feet long, and but I think the interesting thing was that not too much of Truk was well fortified. It mostly just token fortification.
Well, that might give you an idea of what these guns were like. These caves were quite long. And we found bad eggs, I guess. There were eggs anyway. We're not sure. We think they were bad eggs. There were some little boys that took us up. And as we came down, they climbed this tree. Greg climbed it. I didn't. And it looked right down on the water that comes down from the mountain and goes over these rocks and through this pipe that we used for showering. And this was sort of where the little boys came to watch whoever was showering at that time. Then we went on down, and later that morning we swam to Pata, which was the island across the way. It took us about 20 minutes to swim across. It was a great big coral circle in the middle. Very difficult to get over. You can't really walk on coral, and it's hard swimming over it. It's very easy to get cut, and coral cuts are they take a long time to heal. We're very fortunate in that we haven't gotten any. We also haven't gotten any infected.
Very few, put it that way.
Oh, we've gotten very few, yes. We have gotten our small scrapes, but not compared to what some people have. So we arrived on Pata, and one of the reasons we wanted to go was to see this tunnel that we had heard about through the mountain. And we started walking down, and the path was very pleasant, and we met people, and we met one man who spoke very good English, and he had one of the other trainees living with him, and we went to see this trainee, which of course we knew. It's one of the Mariana's trainees. And then this man proceeded to say that he would show us around the island. He was a first grade teacher, Micronesian of course, and he took us down to this tunnel. While we were on the way, told us a legend about how this tunnel was supposed to have been dug by two turtles to help a king get food and unite his island against the king of the island we were living on. This tunnel was really magnificent. If we hadn't have swum over, we would have brought a camera and taken a picture, but it was very grand. I guess that's one word.
Well, it's about 30 feet high. It's a huge thing inside. There's all kinds of bats up on the top of it. And, it's sort of a horseshoe-shaped thing, actually. When you go down, you walk down into it, and then you walk back up. It's not that actually long, but it's very magnificent.
And water comes over either end right after rain. It's supposed to really be something. So then we walked on to see the school. It was about a 45-minute walk. No.
Yeah.
I guess about a 45-minute walk on the whole. We walked by taro patches, and an old man gave us some breadfruit that he was cooking for us to eat. And it was just a very pleasant walk. And then we walked back. We met other trainees. There's a German missionary set up a school there. A church kind of school. They're having Bible lessons as we walked by. And it was just a very pleasant afternoon. We walked back and we had lunch. We ate with this man, this kind of banana pudding made with bananas and coconut juice and chip biscuits. And then people were concerned that we had swum over because of the sharks. But some people in our training group had seen sharks out further and been pretty scared. But right in where we were, we didn't feel there was much danger. And they really are not apt to bother you unless you bother them.
On the whole, I saw a few little sharks when I was in swimming the day before, but they're very small, only about 2 feet long, so I wasn't too concerned. I think that people have more of a fear, a lot of the women especially have more of a fear of the water as far as swimming than the men do. They go out in it quite a bit, but mostly only out on the reef wading. They don't go swimming.
Mm-hmm. So then we wanted to swim back, but he took us in his, he had one of the girls take us in his canoe. And midway, our family was coming back from Pata. A woman of our family had gone over to help a woman who was sick. And so we traded canoes in the middle. I think there must be a picture of these canoes with something. They're hollowed out of a breadfruit log, and they have an outrigger on them. They don't look like much, but they're great fun, and they really do serve their purpose. And we changed in the middle of the water, changed canoes, and then went to our house and ate and went to sleep. So it was a very full day. We enjoyed getting to know our island better, and I think we enjoyed our whole week. The second week we sat with them while they ate and ate some with them. They just have a big thing of pounded breadfruit on a leaf, and everyone digs in with his hands. They don't seem to have any regular system. Sometimes, usually one person eats the oldest in the family, and then it's passed to the next person and the next person, and they'll eat fish if they have it and breadfruit with their hands too, and sit around. The last night we were there, we sang church songs with our family, which is Protestant, and Christmas songs and things, which was quite a bit of fun.
Yeah, it was Christmas carols in August, I'm afraid.
Well, it's the songs we knew in common that they knew in English, and we had picked up a little bit of Trukeese and some Trukeese songs, but not too many.